My name is Ivy Mitchell. I'm 30, and I have a 7-year-old son named Jaden. I like precision, spreadsheets, color-coded calendars, coffee black. Life works best when measured, scheduled, and controlled. But my family has never been about control. They've been about expectation, performance, and appearances. I grew up as the oldest daughter, the one who fixes everything, quietly absorbs chaos, and pays the price for being responsible. My younger sister Jenna was always the bright star. Instagram perfect, effortlessly charming, with a daughter named Ava who never wanted for anything. My mother, ever the image-conscious matriarch, calls Jenna sensitive, a euphemism that meant everyone must bend or she would break. Meanwhile, my accomplishments were practical, invisible, and often overshadowed. When Jaden was born, life got real in a new way. Diapers, daycare, dental bills, every emergency. I managed it all. My ex-boyfriend and I split when Jaden was 3, and I learned co-parenting meant transparency, not compromise. I became a strategist, a negotiator, and occasionally an emergency stylist for cousin's hair. 3 weeks ago, I found a venue for Jaden's birthday. Indoor, sunlit, safe, and exactly what he wanted. $3,900 for the room, bounce house, pizza, and a host to ensure everything ran smoothly. I'd saved for months, skipping takeout, packing lunches, calculating every penny. It was supposed to be simple, joyful, and entirely his. Then came the call from my mother. Her tone was casual, almost cheerful. "How's my grandson?" she asked. Before I could respond, she mentioned Jenna's stress, Ava's canceled park party, and the implication that I should accommodate them. "You're always so organized," she said. That was her compliment. Then came the expectation, veiled as suggestion. "We thought you'd understand if you made a little room for them." I paused, waiting for my chest to stop tightening. I did not respond immediately. I had found a different venue, smaller, manageable. $3,900 was a lot, but it was ours. A space Jaden could claim. I wanted to avoid the inevitable tug of war, but my mother's soft words, her sighs, and that familiar understand always came with a cost. 2 days later, the family chat exploded. Pink hearts, balloons, and Pinterest boards titled Ava's Lucky 7. Pastel rainbows, a cloud-shaped cake, perfect party details. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I typed, erased, retyped. Finally, I sent a cautious, "Looks cute. See you Sunday from Jaden's party." Jenna replied immediately, "We wouldn't miss it." I believed them. That was my first mistake. The morning of the party, Jaden selected his own shirt, a T-Rex on a skateboard, and twirled in the mirror. "Do you think the bounce house will be safe for old people?" he asked, genuinely concerned. I laughed. His small sneakers tapped alongside mine as we loaded the car, orange-stringed party favors bouncing. I felt a rare lightness, a moment of calm before the storm. When we arrived, I froze. The banner I'd ordered, the room I'd paid for, the hours of careful planning, it was already claimed. "Happy 7th, Ava," read the rose gold letters. Pastel plates covered the tables. Cupcakes shimmered with tiny glittery 7s. A woman I didn't know glanced up. "Are you the uncle?" she asked breezily. My stomach sank. Mom appeared, clutching a gift bag. "There you are," she chirped. "We thought you'd understand." I felt the familiar tightening in my chest, the weight of a lifetime of being the accommodating, invisible one. Jaden's hand found mine, small and trembling. "It's okay. Maybe next year," he whispered. My heart ached. It shouldn't have been okay. He shouldn't have said that. Jenna breezed in, sea foam sweater and all, air kissing the room with ease. "Oh my gosh, you're here. Isn't it perfect?" She smiled at the banner as if she'd hung the moon herself. "We did a joint thing. Win-win," she added casually. Win-win. My blood pressure rose with that phrase. I wanted to argue, to tally every detail, to point out that I had booked, paid, and planned this room months in advance. But I stopped myself. The stakes weren't my pride. They were Jaden's day. I took a deep breath. "Buddy, let's get some air," I whispered. Outside, the aquarium bubbled, orange fish looping lazily. "Is the fish happy?" Jaden asked. "I think so. It's doing what fish do." He shrugged, reassured by my calm, though his innocence had absorbed the first lesson in compromise he should never have faced. Back inside, the conflict simmered. Jenna's bright laughter clashed with my mother's fixed, expectant smile. They assumed generosity meant surrender. I felt a clarity I hadn't allowed myself in years. I was no longer just accommodating their assumptions. I was protecting Jaden. I approached Mom and Jenna calmly. "Take the decorations down. This room is ours," I said. Their shock was visible, the disbelief hanging in the air. Mom tried her soft tactics. "We're family. We help each other." I shook my head. "Help doesn't mean taking. Since when did you mistake my generosity for entitlement?" Jenna rolled her eyes, scoffing. "It's just a banner. You wouldn't ruin your son's day to prove a point." "I'm not ruining it," I thought. "I'm protecting it." Marissa, the venue manager, approached quietly, clipboard in hand. I gestured at the contract, showing my exclusive booking. My voice was calm, administrative. "Front room, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Exclusive use. That's my signature. That's my card." Jenna's smile flickered. "You're embarrassing me," she whispered. "I lived 30 years so you could avoid embarrassment," I thought. "You'll survive this minute." Mom made one last attempt. "Ivy, don't be childish." I met her eyes. "I'm not cold. I'm clear. Jaden's day is not negotiable. Take the decorations down. Now." I took Jaden's hand. "Come on, buddy. We're going to the park down the street. The one with the big slide." Jenna sputtered. "Are you kidding? After all this work?" I didn't answer. The decision was made. The room was ours, the day protected, and the lesson for my child already begun. The lobby smelled faintly of popcorn and sanitizer. Jaden's small hand pressed into mine as we walked past the rose gold perfection that had hijacked his party. I could feel my mother's stare, sharp and incredulous, burning into my back. Behind us, Jenna waved cheerfully at the staff, as if orchestrating a show I was never invited to direct. I crouched to Jaden's level. "Buddy, I know it's not what you expected," I said softly. His small frown, barely visible, tugged at something older in me, the decades of accommodating family whims, the silent sacrifices, the invisible ledger of favors and money I'd kept for years. "It's okay," he whispered again, as though repeating it would make it true. I swallowed hard. No, it's not okay. It should never have been okay for him to learn that his happiness could be so casually displaced. I let my eyes scan the room. Glittery sevens, pastel plates, cupcakes with swirls of frosting that would never match Jaden's dinosaur cake. Every detail screamed entitlement. Every detail reminded me of my own history. The purple bike Jenna got at 10 while I received her old, frog sticker-covered hand-me-down. The grocery bagging shifts at 16 so I could pay for a school trip while she got funding without question. I had been the responsible one for as long as I could remember, and now, decades later, the pattern repeated itself. I exhaled. The air in my lungs felt heavier than the weight of the credit card charges I'd already prepared. But this was different. This wasn't about money. This was about Jaden. I turned to the venue manager, Marissa, who had been watching the exchange silently. "Can we review the contract?" I asked. She nodded, quick and discreet, fetching the clipboard. I pointed to the exclusive booking clause. "Front room, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., exclusive use. My signature, my card." Jenna's smile wavered, a flicker of disbelief. "You're embarrassing me," she muttered. "I lived 30 years so you could avoid embarrassment," I thought. "You'll survive this minute." Mom attempted another soft approach. "We're family, Ivy. We help each other." I shook my head, steady. "Help doesn't mean taking. This isn't generosity. It's entitlement disguised as need. Jaden's day is not negotiable." Jenna folded her arms, a picture of irritation. "Why do you make everything a moral stand?" she challenged. "Because you make everything a test of whether I'll give in," I thought, and I was done failing. I took Jaden's hand. "Come on, buddy. Let's go to the park down the street, the one with the big slide." He looked up at me, his eyes bright with trust. "Really? We can still play." Yes, I thought, we can still celebrate what matters. As we walked out, I called my ex-boyfriend, Charles, for support. His calm voice anchored me. "Do right by our kid," he said simply. "Stop teaching him that we fold when someone pushes." I nodded, though he couldn't see me. I'd already made my choice. Back at the venue, I could feel the ripple of confusion and frustration from my mother and Jenna. They were used to compliance. They weren't used to boundaries. Their whispers and mutters were loud enough to sting. Aunt Deb poked her head around the cupcake tower. "Is there an issue?" she asked, suspicion in her tone. "Yes," I said quietly. This room is mine. I paid for it. The decorations come down here and now. Jenna huffed. You wouldn't ruin your son's day to prove a point. I turned to Jaden, who stood half hidden behind my leg, small but brave in his T-Rex shirt. I'm not ruining it, I told him. I'm protecting it. Mom's mouth tightened. You're overreacting. I'm not overreacting, I thought. I'm clarifying the rules after decades of them being rewritten without my consent. I gestured to Marissa. Can you please bring me the contract? She moved quickly, handing it over. I pointed calmly. Front room, exclusive use, time slot confirmed. Jenna's disbelief grew. You're making this a moral battle, she whispered again. I didn't answer. My actions spoke. I had lived 30 years bending for everyone else. Now I was bending only for Jaden. Mom tried her classic guilt play. We thought you'd understand. You've always been the generous one. Don't change now. You just named the problem, I thought. My help became expected, not requested. And that has to change. I looked down at Jaden's small hand in mine. Come on, buddy, I said again. We're going to celebrate your birthday our way. We left the venue. The pink, glittery, carefully orchestrated chaos was behind us. Jaden's small sneakers kept pace with mine as we stepped onto the sidewalk, the tension of expectation left behind like a heavy coat. In the park, the big slide was dry, the air was crisp, and leaves shivered in the gentle wind. Jaden climbed, raced down, demanded countdowns, and laughed like a child who had reclaimed his day. For a moment, I let myself breathe, the years of anticipation and disappointment dissipating with each slide. It wasn't the party I had planned. It was better. It was real. By the time we reached the park, my phone was vibrating like it had caught fire. First one call from Mom, then 3 more, then 8. I slipped it into the cup holder and let it howl. Jaden rolled down the window 2 inches and inhaled the damp, summer air. It smells like rain. The sky was that gray that breaks and brightens within the hour, he said. Even in chaos, he found poetry. I crouched beside him at the slide. Do you want to time yourself? I asked. He nodded furiously. Countdown after countdown, whoosh after whoosh. His laughter pealed through the park. Each slide, each triumphant yell, each sticky-fingered cupcake from the grocery store bakery felt like a tiny victory reclaimed. Charles arrived quietly, juice boxes in hand. His presence was calm, measured. I know your mother, he said softly. You okay? I looked at him, relief threading through exhaustion. Better than I thought I would be. Jaden perched on a bench, building a tiny Lego dinosaur with backward legs, proud and focused. We didn't need perfection. We had presence, attention, and each other. Meanwhile, my phone blew up. Missed calls, texts, notifications stacked like bricks. By 3:02 p.m., it was a monsoon of family outrage. Mom, Jenna, Aunt Deb, even distant cousins weighed in. Accusations, revisionist history, the usual chorus of entitlement. Children first, Ivy, they typed. I set my phone down. The messages could wait. Jaden, sticky with blue frosting, mattered more than digital storms. By 5:20 p.m., Marissa texted me. Hi, Ivy. Per your request, we canceled remaining services. Another party canceled last minute. Your room was reassigned after you left. No charges today. Happy birthday to your kid. I exhaled. Random kindness in a world designed for assumptions. At 6:08 p.m., my mother sent a photo in the family group chat. Ava under the rose gold banner, frosting smeared across her cheeks. Caption, see, it all worked out. I didn't reply. It wasn't for me. It was for the choir of people who thought outcomes erased methods. They left out Jaden's whispered, it's okay, and the subtle manipulation that had tried to steal his day. By 8:11 p.m., my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole, chain still on. Mom stood there, eyes flashing relief, anger, pity, all at once. Can we talk? I answered gently. You can say what you need to say from there. Her voice softened, tinged with disbelief. I don't know who you've become. You used to be so generous. I looked her in the eye. I'm still generous. I'm just done funding other people's entitlement. It's not fair. We're a family. We share. Yes, we share, I said firmly. We share expenses, not ownership. We share time, not someone else's child's birthday. She tried another angle. Jenna, under pressure, Ava sensitive. You've misunderstood. I countered quietly, carefully. Ava is just a child. She'll take after the example adults set. Her eyes filled quickly. You think I'm a bad grandmother? I think you're very good at deciding who deserves what. Today it was Jaden, I said. That was the line where I drew my boundary. Mom softened, almost pleading. Sweetheart, you know I love Jaden. I don't doubt that. I doubt you respect him, and me, I said. She adjusted her purse like a shield. Fine. What do you want then? A public apology? A refund? No, I want you to understand the free ride is over, I said. She repeated it, scandalized. Free ride? Yes, I said. I can't keep giving my money, time, and silence without agreement. People will talk. They always do, she whispered. Exactly, I said, gently closing the door. By midnight, the group chat was a tempest. Aunt Deb, stunned. Jenna, furious. Mom, incredulous. Each tried to rewrite history, reshape the narrative, reclaim control. I ignored it all. I made tea, loaded the dishwasher, washed Jaden's frosting-stained shirt, and watched the water go cloudy, then clear. The physical act of care grounded me. Relief, not exhaustion, this time. The next morning, Jaden asked, Do I still get to be 7? Yes, every day this year, I replied. He grinned, gap-toothed, and added, Can 7-year-olds eat pancakes for dinner? They can in this house, I said. He nodded solemnly. I like this house. Me too, I said, and let the quiet settle. We didn't attend the family meeting. Mom sent a photo of the living room, chairs arranged like an intervention. Caption, Your choice. I left it on red. Holidays were no longer leverage. They were an option, not an obligation. I began a new rhythm, automatic transfers to Jaden's college fund, lists of what we could afford, block notifications, unsubscribed from curated life feeds, scheduled simple joys, and marked boundaries firmly. A week later, a card arrived in the mail, no return address. Inside, 2 sentences. Family share, don't be a stranger. I placed it in a drawer alongside spare batteries and tape measures, useful things, and moved on. For the first time in decades, I felt the soft relief of claiming my life, my son, and my boundaries. The days after Jaden's birthday were quiet, almost unreal. For the first time in years, the frantic buzzing of my family's expectations didn't dominate my calendar. The air smelled faintly of possibility. I woke early, brewed coffee the way I liked it, strong, no cream, no compromises, and watched Jaden race toy dinosaurs across the living room carpet, laughter echoing like a promise. Charles stopped by mid-morning, as he usually did, calm and steady. I saw the texts, he said, sliding onto the couch beside me. You handled it perfectly. I shook my head, stirring my coffee. I don't know if it was perfect. I know it was necessary. He smiled, eyes soft. There's a difference. He always had a way of cutting through the noise. I'd learned to rely on that. But this wasn't just about co-parenting anymore. This was about reclaiming my life from decades of silent acquiescence, decades of being the responsible one, the fixer, the invisible hand behind everyone else's comfort. The first wave of fallout came in texts and calls, the familiar storm of outrage, guilt trips, and revisionist history. Aunt Deb, Jenna, even Mom. Each tried to rewrite the narrative, to make me the villain, to make Jaden's birthday about their feelings instead of his. I ignored it. For the first time, ignoring didn't feel like evasion. It felt like strategy. I focused on Jaden. I mapped out weekend trips to the small park near our apartment, planned Lego building marathons, and baked blue frosting cupcakes together, tiny, imperfect, ours. Each small act, a reclamation of normalcy, of joy. By midweek, my mother sent a text, Can we talk? I don't understand. I read it, then deleted it. I wasn't avoiding conversation. I was prioritizing boundaries. I didn't owe explanations. I didn't owe permission. Later that day, a call from Charles. Your mother is asking for a meeting, he said. You want me there? No, I replied firm. This is mine. I handle my own family. There was a silence on the line, then his quiet acknowledgement. Understood. I felt a strange liberation in that moment. Decades of bending for family expectations, years of prioritizing their comfort over my own or Jaden's, had been replaced with a simple principle: clarity, boundaries, protection. Thursday evening brought a small shock. A neighbor approached with a package, no name. Inside, a handwritten letter from Mom. I'm proud of your strength. We may never agree on everything, but I see you. Don't let anyone take your fire. I paused, fingers trembling over the paper. For the first time, her words weren't layered with manipulation. They were acknowledgement. I felt something I hadn't felt in years, recognition without obligation. Jaden climbed onto my lap, eyes wide. Are you happy now, Mom? I looked down at him, his small hand clutching mine. Yes, buddy, I said. I'm happy because we're happy. That's enough. The rest of the week passed in this new rhythm. Calls went unanswered, unless necessary. Texts were filtered. Family expectations recalibrated. I built spreadsheets for Jaden's school supplies and small adventures, color-coded, precise. But unlike before, these spreadsheets weren't to appease anyone else. They were for us, a blueprint for joy, order, and freedom. One evening, Charles came by unexpectedly, holding a small, wrapped box. For Jaden, he said simply. Inside was a tiny T-Rex figurine, hand-painted. Jaden's eyes lit up. Wow, it's perfect, he exclaimed, hugging Charles tightly. I smiled from the kitchen doorway. Watching them, I realized this was what it meant to protect your child. Not shielding from disappointment entirely, but creating space for their happiness to flourish, even in imperfection. Later, I sat alone on the balcony, the city lights flickering below. I thought of the countless times I had given silently, quietly, and the exhaustion that came with it. And now, for the first time, I felt a quiet, stubborn satisfaction. I had drawn the line, enforced it, and survived. More than survived. I had grown. And somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered that this was only the beginning. There would be more challenges, more attempts to reclaim control, more subtle battles over expectations and entitlement. But I was ready. Finally ready. For Jaden, for me. The following weeks felt like stepping into a new life. The constant hum of family demands, the unspoken expectation that I would always give more than I received, had quieted. Jaden's laughter filled the apartment in ways I hadn't realized were missing, a soundtrack to our own rhythm, unshaped by anyone else's rules. We discovered the joy of small routines, morning pancakes with extra sprinkles, after-school Lego challenges, bike rides to the little park down the street. No banners, no rose gold cakes, no judgment. Just presence, just us. Charles became a steady anchor, not as a rescuer, but as a partner in observation, decision, and sometimes quiet amusement. He'd noticed the subtle signs, the way Jaden's shoulders slumped when he saw a text from Mom pop up, the brief hesitation before opening the front door. Together we developed strategies: redirect, reinforce, protect. I even began to enjoy the silence where my own thoughts could breathe, where I could plan, reflect, and prepare for what came next without feeling manipulated or obligated. Of course, the family storms hadn't disappeared entirely. Occasional calls, texts, and group messages still arrived, a mix of guilt, entitlement, and subtle persuasion. But now I responded with clarity instead of compliance. Noted, Jaden is happy. Our plans continue as scheduled, I typed. No explanations, no justification. Boundaries were no longer suggestions, they were facts. One evening, as Jaden built a tower of Legos on the kitchen floor, he looked up at me with wide, earnest eyes. Mom, do you think Grandma will ever understand? I paused, setting down my tea. Maybe, I said carefully. Or maybe she'll understand in her own time. But what matters is that we understand each other and we're okay. He smiled, a small, self-assured grin. I like it that way. It feels like our secret. Later, I reflected on how much had shifted. The woman who once bent and gave endlessly, who quietly carried the weight of everyone else's expectations, had emerged as someone else entirely. Stronger, firmer, and, most importantly, present. I had learned to define generosity on my own terms. To teach Jaden that love isn't about sacrifice at the expense of self-worth, but about care, attention, and respect. The final test came quietly. Mom sent another card in the mail, carefully folded, no demands. Inside, I hope you know your choices are seen. I may never fully agree, but I respect your strength. I held it in my hands, feeling the weight of decades of tension lighten. Finally, acknowledgement without manipulation, recognition without obligation. Jaden tugged at my sleeve. Mom, can we go get ice cream tonight? Just us? I laughed, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead. Yes, buddy, just us. Let's go. The city lights glimmered as we stepped outside. For the first time, I felt the world didn't belong to anyone else but us. My heart swelled with a simple, profound truth. Boundaries could coexist with love. Independence could coexist with family. And happiness, real, unpolished, uncurated happiness, was finally ours. I glanced at Charles, who walked beside us, carrying Jaden's backpack and a grin that mirrored mine. We didn't need validation, approval, or permission. We had each other. We had choice. We had freedom. And in that quiet, ordinary evening, I realized this was the new normal, our normal. Beautiful, messy, imperfect, and entirely ours.